different types of retaining walls. That's what we're going to be talking about today. In the realm of retaining walls, we see many different shapes, sizes, and textures of materials used to build these huge structures. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. But they all serve a really important purpose. And that is to hold back ground or hold up ground so we can build on it. There's hills everywhere. And we got to be able to build on flat ground. Or we need retaining walls to build on ground that's not flat. There are 4 different types of retaining walls that we're going to cover today. The 4 different types are: 1, gravity retaining walls; 2, mechanically stabilized earth retaining walls, also known as MSE walls. We're also going to go over cantilever walls, as well as a piling retaining wall or embedded retaining wall, which those are highly specialized retaining walls for very, very specific construction applications. Stick with us, we're going to go through them. Gravity retaining walls. Very popular retaining wall. And I happen to find one here. Typically these walls are going to be less than 4 feet tall. Sometimes you can find a retaining wall that's a little bit shorter than 4 feet, needing some stabilization in it, but typically it depends on the application that you're putting the wall in. If you got a parking lot underneath it or on top of it, or some type of structure on top of it, you might need a little bit of stabilization. But this is a gravity retaining wall. This particular wall is pretty short, and all it's using is gravity to hold it up. That's it. Right here behind me, if you can see it. It's just using gravity to hold it up. The force of the gravity in relation to the weight of the product and the material behind it, assuming that you have proper drainage and the proper elements within this wall built correctly, gravity is sufficient to hold that wall up and to hold all of the weight of the soil behind it to keep it from toppling over. That particular wall right there looked like somebody had driven into it, so it had a little bit of a dent in it. But you know, try not to drive into your retaining walls. It's just not good. It hurts your vehicle, it hurts the wall, costs you money. Don't drive into them. Mechanically stabilized earth retaining wall. Let's check one out. Hop out of the truck. These mechanically stabilized earth retaining walls are huge structures. Sometimes they're small, but a lot of times they're big retaining walls holding back huge amounts of soil. Tons and tons and tons, thousands of tons of soil and rock behind these walls. A lot of times you'll find them holding up buildings or slopes, parking lots, and anything you can really think of, to be honest. This particular wall right here is a ready rock retaining wall, and it is a mechanically stabilized earth retaining wall, also known as, or you may hear it be called, reinforced soil retaining wall. This particular wall is about 20-25 foot tall, maybe a little shorter, maybe a little higher. I didn't measure it from top to bottom, but it's a huge wall, okay? And it's got hundreds of thousands of tons of rock behind this wall. I literally watched this wall being built over the course of a couple of months. This wall is huge, and it's holding up a parking lot. So there's cars up there that are moving, stopping, and going. And this wall is literally holding up all of that weight, plus a moving load on top of it. This wall has geosynthetic fabrics placed behind it within the rock that it's holding back. Sometimes, we call it geogrid. There's lots of different types of geogrid that you put in these walls, but this one has geogrid layered in every single layer. Every 18 inches, this retaining wall has geogrid layered into it. So, mechanically stabilized earth. These are huge walls holding up lots of weight, sometimes buildings, roads, bridges, railroads, and other things. These types of walls, if you have to do any kind of mechanical stabilization on any earth for swimming pools, a house, a road, or anything, you need to get an engineer on this retaining wall. You need to get an engineer involved to make sure that it's built correctly. You don't want one of these things falling over on you or your kids or some random person walking by, because it will kill them. It'll smash them and they'll be gone forever. All right, get an engineer for these retaining walls. They're huge, they're beautiful, and they do a lot of work. Let's go see some other stuff. Cantilever retaining walls. Let's check one out. Cantilever retaining walls are a special kind of retaining wall, in that they're usually plain and kind of ugly, in my opinion, but they do serve its purpose. We've got cantilever retaining walls all over the place. A lot of times they're perfectly vertical retaining walls. A lot of times they can be cast in place, so there's a bunch of framing that's put up. They pour concrete into it after they tie a bunch of rebar together, and then they take the forms down, and then you got this big concrete wall cast in place. Now you can do a lot of things with them. You can put stone facings on them. You can stamp them and etch them. You can change their color. You can paint them. You can do a lot of things with them. They're typically used for space-saving needs. But given what we got today in technology and the products we have available to us, there are some segmental retaining walls that we can use to build straight up and down, a vertical retaining wall, to accomplish the same thing that this cast in place retaining wall is accomplishing, of saving space. But basically, there's a huge pad underneath this thing on the bottom, and it goes way back into the ground. And then they cast this wall on top of it, towards the front edge of it, maybe set back off the front of it just a little bit, and then they backfill behind it, and that's your cantilever retaining wall. It uses the force being pulled down by gravity, the force of the weight of the material behind this retaining wall being pulled down by gravity, to keep this wall from toppling over forward. If that leg that goes back into the ground isn't long enough, this wall will topple over. So these are another type of wall that you definitely have to get engineered. They can be up to 8 foot tall, and after that, things start to get a little wonky, and you got to do some stuff behind it. A lot of kind of stuff behind it to make it work right. And they also get really expensive. But once they start getting about 8 foot or taller, it's better to just go with a different type of product that can accomplish the same thing that type of wall can. Let's go check out a piling wall, or embedded wall. Piling retaining walls, also known as embedded retaining walls. Let's check one out. If we can see it, it's across the river, and this is the best view we can get. Piling retaining walls are typically found underground. We don't even hardly see them. So most of the time, you won't even know they're there. So you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a wall in the ground that you can't even see. You don't even get to admire its great beauty. And I'm walking on these rocks. Doing my best not to bust my butt. But I want to get the best look we can at this embedded retaining wall, or piling retaining wall, right across the river here. I'm going to flip you around on the screen so you can see what we're looking at. All right, so this bridge needed some repair work done on that pillar right across the river. You can see it looks nice and new. It's completely different from all the other pillars. But if you look at the base of that wall, you can see this rust-colored metal around the base of it. That is sheet piling. Though that is a piling retaining wall. It was pilings driven into the ground, deep into the ground, so the people that were constructing that pillar had the ability to keep water out from the base, and they could work in there without it toppling over or caving in on them. These retaining walls allow construction workers to get down below the surface of the ground safely, and even work in the middle of a river if it's needed, to build those huge pillars that hold up that train track. The train travels across that bridge every single day. Piling retaining walls do a lot of work. They're really cool, but they're really expensive. They take highly specialized equipment and knowledge to construct them appropriately, and you definitely need an engineer involved on that. You don't want to get caught in a situation where you're trying to build something underground and you get buried because the ground fell in on you. Stick around. We went around my town, Clarksville, Tennessee, checking out some retaining walls, the different styles of walls. We checked out a gravity wall. We checked out a mechanically stabilized earth retaining wall. We checked out a cantilever retaining wall, and we checked out a piling retaining wall, or an embedded retaining wall. They all have their own functions and purposes, but they're all really doing the same thing. They're keeping the earth stabilized. And a lot of time, it's really important to do that, especially if you're building on top of it. You don't want your ground washing off. The retaining walls are serving purposes such as preventing erosion, guiding water to a certain area, water runoff control, and it's holding up our buildings, our roads, our bridges, our train tracks, everything that we need to commute from one place to the next. They're used in residential applications and commercial applications. A lot of times on the residential side, you'll see retaining walls holding up swimming pools and patios and decks and pavilions. Sometimes they're leveling out a yard so you can have more livable space. Retaining walls can be used for so many different purposes. And some of those purposes can actually add value to your property. If your property's on a nothing but a slope and you don't have any real good usable yard space, homeowners, home buyers may be reluctant to purchase your property because you don't have a good space for their kids to play. A retaining wall leveling out your yard could definitely give them the space that they need or want, that little extra push to buy your property. A retaining wall can definitely add value to any project. I mean, that's why we use them, because we're able to create space that was before unusable. My name's Eric. I am with Living Hardscapes in Clarksville, Tennessee. We've went around town and looked at a few different types of walls, done a brief description of them and how they work and what they're doing and what they look like. Now you have been a little bit educated on what they can do for you. There's so much more that goes into retaining walls than what we've covered in this video. We will be going over more stuff later. What they cost, what they can be used for, how they can add value to your property, different ways you can use retaining walls on your project. And I know we just got a little shaky there, riding down the road and things are a little bumpy. But, give us a call. If you have a need for retaining walls and you're in Clarksville, Tennessee, or Nashville, or somewhere in between, go to our website at www.livinghardscapes.com. Check us out. Send us a message. Send us some pictures of your property and a description of what you're looking to do on your project. We can help you out. We do outdoor living spaces and we build retaining walls. We love doing this stuff. Give us a call. We want to help you with your project. I hope you've learned something. I hope we help you make a decision to whether you want to move forward with your retaining wall project or not. And I really hope to hear from you. Y'all have a good day.